Join us in welcoming Scott Hawley.
All right, hey everybody. I teach at Belmont, and I do some machine learning research with neural networks, write some apps, mostly for audio engineering and signal processing, but started getting into the AI ethics and society angle as a result of a Templeton grant. So I'm going to start with some good old nostalgia, some sci-fi, artificial general intelligence nostalgia. When I was growing up, I was a fan of the Buck Rogers TV show, and I'm surprised at how few people from my generation actually remember this show. But there was this character on there. His name was Dr. Theophilus, and he was a artificial general intelligence that served as a counselor. He was, they called him quads, but there was this thing called the Computer Council that was the governing body of the society. So play the one in the top left, and we'll just it'll be a minute and a half.
And this is Dr. Theophilus. Good morning, Dr. Theophilus. It's a lovely day.
Thank you. I did my best.
Dr. Theophilus here is a member of our Computer Council. And in addition to other things, he's personally responsible for all our environmental controls here within the inner city.
I'm introducing a pale hint of mauve into the sunset this evening. Not so deep as an amethyst, but the more subtle burn texture of cinnamon.
How nice.
I do hope our captain can watch it with us. It's truly going to be lovely.
If I were you, I'd check into whoever's programming and thing.
Captain Rogers, it is we on the council who do the programming for the entire city. And kindly reserve your opinion. Shall we get down to cases?
Captain Rogers, I'll leave you with a word of advice. These quads are not programmed by man. They've been programmed by one another over the generations. You see, the mistakes we have made in areas, well, like our environment, have been entirely turned over to them. And they've saved the Earth from certain doom, little by little bringing us back so that we will not have to depend entirely on other planets for our food and water. The quads are not human, but you can hurt their feelings. It's this sensitivity that separates them from mere machines.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to go to the next slide. We're not going to play that other one. Great. All right. Oh, wait. Yeah. So the quote here from Dr. Theophilus, or actually from the human, Dr. Lace Heward, he says, "The mistakes we've made in areas like our environment have been entirely turned over to these quads, and they've saved the Earth from certain doom." Right? Does anybody hear any religious sorts of connotations in that? They made a decision to turn their will and their lives over. And look, it went from really messed up Earth to shiny and gleaming city. Right? So this is kind of nice, right? This is a dream of a techno-utopia. I think a lot of us spend a lot of our time thinking about failure modes for machine learning systems and for AI and society. We watch a lot of dystopian sci-fi, and there is a fair amount of optimism in the transhumanist subculture, but in the larger culture it's a lot of dystopia. So it's nice to point out this is an imagination in which there were benevolent AIs. It's not saying that that's guaranteed, but it's at least nice to think about, right? So as opposed to Skynet and Terminators and so forth, right? And the name really stuck out to me. They chose the name Dr. Theophilus. There's that Theo in there. And this is supposedly in a future sci-fi society. Usually future sci-fi societies have been freed from their religious superstitions and so forth, right? So I thought that was really interesting. So this optimism, it does form a kind of a hope, right? And so this is not the kind of hope that you see only in secular culture. It's not purely a result of scientific advancements and so forth. So the hope is saying, right, a higher intelligence will somehow rescue or save humanity and resolve humanity's problems, right? And there's kind of an assumption involved in that that we're going to talk about in just a second. But this hope is not necessarily scientific, right? So we do see this in a religious context, that God is going to save us and save the earth. We're going to live in a new society. So a higher intelligence can resolve our problems, can fix everything. So can you play the other clip?
Number one, we got this guy not sure. Number two, he's got a higher IQ than any man alive. And number three, he's gonna fix everything. I give you my word as president.
Yeah, right? So that's what AI is going to do, right? It's going to fix everything. Well, that may be, that's certainly optimism. It's not really clear how well-founded that is in reality. So, all right, I'm trying to click forward. All right, yeah. So we've got our assumption that that our problems are due to a lack of intelligence, or maybe a lack of knowledge, or maybe, if you want to try and define it, maybe some kind of lack of morality. But there's this fundamental lacking with some kind of cognitive ability there. And so our hypothesis that a lot of people are putting forward when they're trying to propose machine learning solutions to large-scale cultural and societal problems is essentially saying that these set of problems admit a technical solution. And I'm not making a judgment on that. Oh wait, yes I am. That hypothesis is probably wrong for a variety of reasons, but the main thing is that machine learning, the algorithms, they're still always going to require some kind of human amount of tweaking, and the sorts of systems that they're supposed to affect are going to involve human solutions. Right? So AI in particular, it raises at least as many ethical issues as it solves. When I was in the UK, I got to see Kate Crawford from NYU give a speech, and you can find her TED Talks online where she's talking about AI and the rise of fascism and classification as a tool for power. She gives a great history of government's attempts to track people and classify people, how the Nazis did it really well with the Hollerith machine, but the sorts of techniques that are available now are even better, are even more accurate, right? Also, there's a similar quote from a guy named Gus Speth when he was speaking about environmental issues. And he was saying, you know, I used to think that if we could just get enough science, if the scientists could do their job well enough, they would pose a solution. But he ends up saying we need, to deal with these problems, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation, and we scientists don't know how to do that. There's a Christian developer and columnist by the name of Richard Sargent. He has a great essay called AI Ethics, Send Money, Guns, and Lawyers. And so the sorts of resolutions to these large-scale problems are still going to involve humans on some level. In fact, just last week there was an article, Science Alone Won't Save the Earth, people have to do that. It was in the New York Times. All right, so machine learning, AI can give us tools for how we're going to work on some of this, but we're not going to be able to just get out of and abdicate our responsibility, essentially due to non-technical sorts of issues, right? For the sort of issues that people deal with in the humanities. So part of my deal this summer was hanging out with a bunch of people from the humanities as a scientist, and it always kind of struck me at how difficult it was to even define some of the terms, let alone come to a clear and well-defined answer so much of the time. If there's not a consensus, it's difficult to form a data set on which to train a system to reproduce results on, right? You may think, well, maybe we can find some sort of Nash equilibrium or a fixed point with some sort of game theory approach. It's really not clear that that idea expands to more than just a few isolated scenarios. And then the issue of accountability. Who is going to be left, who's ultimately responsible for these things? Joanna Bryson has a lot of great work on saying, you know, it needs to be human beings who are held accountable for what these systems do. Right? So we're left with AI as a useful tool, essentially. Okay? So a lot of great things you can do, and I've just listed a few, right? So there's a huge movement over the past, say, year and a half of AI for good. There's benevolent.ai. There's the AI Ethics and Society Institute. A bunch of institutes came up last year. We see that people are using it to save the coral. So this was just last week where they're identifying some resistant strains of coral that can withstand global warming. Here in Franklin, Digital Reasoning, in collaboration with Ashton Kutcher's Thorne, did some really great work on shutting down sex trafficking. Is anybody here from DR, by the way? Is anybody? Okay, Digital Reasoning is a great resource here in town. And then medical advances as well. There's a lot of work for AI applied to medical systems, diagnosis, classification. There was a push where IBM's Watson was going to be curing cancer. That didn't really work out. And that's not to say that it'll never happen, but sometimes the optimism can be a little misguided. And then certainly there are plenty of things that AI would enable you to do which are not good, right? And so I already mentioned fascism, tracking people, classifying using established stereotypes and biases, essentially encoding our biases, having bogus science where we're essentially doing a machine learning version of phrenology, right? They were doing this in China, where they claimed that they could predict whether you were likely to be a criminal or not just by the shape of your head, because they had done lots and lots of studies of pictures and using facial recognition, right? That's bogus science, but it's getting used in places. Miles Brundage over at the Future of Humanity Institute did a paper earlier this year with about 20 different leading people called Malicious Uses of AI, and they list a lot of them. And I'm just picking out a couple, but you're already aware of the power to fake things and manipulate people, either through targeted ads or through straight up generating video of politicians saying things they never said. If you're interested in more of that, I invite you to check out Miles's work. Did anybody see the Slaughterbots video that came out in fall of last year? We're talking about micro drones. I don't have time to show it for you right now, but sometime Google Slaughterbots. So Max Tegmark in the Future of Life Institute had this thing about these autonomous assassination drones, basically. And what really made it interesting was the AI, because the AI meant that these things didn't rely on a centralized control system. All right, so what about serving the church? What can we do in the church with machine learning and AI tools? Well, there are a lot of things, and I'm just highlighting a few. Certainly translation, right? So machine learning, natural language processing has really sped up the way of disseminating, writing something in one language and getting it into another language. I'm not necessarily saying that machine learning is going to help translate into languages that no one's put a Bible in yet, although I think there are people working on that. Certainly evangelism, there are multiple groups out there that have started having chat bots that will answer people's questions about Jesus and about the Bible. Biblical archaeology, discovering lost cities. There's an awful lot about discovering a lost city called AI. And you have to watch out when you're Googling that, because that's not the sort of AI that I was trying to Google on this, right? Missions and logistics. And if you really wanted to, certainly you could generate some more music, but let's hope not too many people do that. I just saw this photo as I was Googling, as I was making this talk, and I was like, wow, I just had to look at that for a minute. Okay, moving on. So AI, right, it's a tool, it's not just a tool. We don't want to say it's just a tool. Sometimes when people say it's just a tool, they're really in some sense in denial about what a powerful change this can have, because tools have ends. There's a teleology associated with a tool. It has a certain tendency, and it has a way that it will cause other people to move in certain tendencies, right? So I'm just giving you a few examples. But for example, what does an AI want, right? And so one thing an AI wants, if it wants data, well, data-hungry algorithms make for data-hungry companies and corporations as well, and governments. All right, so a really big conversation that's happening right now is the notion of transparency and accountability. And a lot of people I'm citing are at the University of Bath. It's led by Joanna Bryson. Certainly the EU has required that all the algorithmic decisions that get made be in some sense explainable, which means that large-scale neural network systems are off the table. Furthermore, as I already mentioned, Joanna Bryson has mentioned, we need to hold humans accountable. We don't want to make AIs persons in the legal sense of the word. Rob Wortham's done a lot of work with transparency. If you can let people see how a decision is being made, then it can help them form a sense of trust. but you don't want to overwhelm the people with too much information. That's some work from Andreas Theodora. All right, so in closing, optimism can be healthy. Right? It's good to have realistic dreams. There's a great commentator, Synep Fugi. Oh yeah, I left out her quote. Hold on a second. This is worth doing. All right, too many people worry about what AI, as if some independent entity, will do to us. Too few people worry what power will do with AI. And so she also says she wants people to have realistic nightmares. And so it is good to have realistic nightmares and to have some realistic dreams. So if you're interested in getting involved, there are a few points here. Also, I want to point you to a new magazine started by co-creators, Christopher Bennett, called Superposition Magazine. It's a theologically informed digital technology magazine. And with that, I'm out of time. I'll just show some thanks up there on the board. Thank you very much. Do we have time for a question or one question? Yeah.
Yes, I saw in a magazine where they predicted that AI will be used by the year 2022.
Okay.
Did you see that article?
Well, AI is being used right now, actually.
Well, it'd be used completely. I mean, I gotta take it.
It sounds like Kurzweil's prediction, 2022, where the computational power of, I think, available to us will exceed the computational power of human intelligence.
Oh, okay. So the question is, do I agree with that assessment? That's an interesting thing. Actually, the Future of Humanity Institute did a survey of lots and lots of AI researchers on questions like when do we expect to see artificial intelligence and when is this or that going to come out. And there was this huge variability. Some people thought it would be 100 years, some people thought it would be 30 years. But it seemed like the majority of the community was saying that probably within the next 40 years, I think it was something like about 60% of the people surveyed, the researchers surveyed, had said, yeah, they expect something that could pretty well mimic human performance on a variety of human tasks. So 40 years from now is a pretty good number, at least for a number of people in the research community. Myself, I'm really interested in the next 20 or 30 years and machine learning applications, and I'm not really sure about the artificial general intelligence debate, so to speak. Thanks.
Seems like it could be used for like, is this the maid I want for life? There's so many mistakes made.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like there's possibilities there, and a lot of other major decisions that in a personal way.
Yeah. I think there are probably some people who are working on that, in fact, but I don't know any details. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.